back. I'm Elo, and now that I've introduced myself, it's time for a confession. I'm not good at finishing series. I'm great at starting them, that's quite easy, but the follow-up and the follow-through is quite lacking, and I'd like to improve that in 2024, so I thought I'd make this video about 24 series I'd like to continue in the course of this year. So let's get started. The first series is Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I've been steadily working my way through these books for the last couple of years. I don't think this one is going to be an issue. The last book I read was A Hatful of Sky. I'm following along with this read-along podcast called The Truth Shall Make You Fret. Shout out to them. And the next book that they read is The Science of Discworld 2, which is called The Globe. The Science of Discworld is like a sub-series within the Discworld series that are popular science books, actually, which is a bit unusual for a fantasy series, but every other chapter is set in the Discworld fantasy story, and the other chapters are popular science explanations of some of the concepts mentioned in the chapter. And that's pretty cool, and I'd like to probably catch up to where the podcast is currently at this year. So I've got a couple of books to read to get caught up, and then just keep it up throughout the year. And the second series is The Saint of Steel by Kingfisher. I read 2 of the 4 books currently out right now, and the next one is Paladin's Hope. All of these books are romance fantasy books with a little bit of action, but also some pretty cute moments. Paladin's Hope is about a coroner that's been a minor character in some of the earlier books, and this one is actually a gay love story, so that's a bit of a departure from the previous ones, and it'll be interesting because T.K. Kingfisher, she just writes one male of interest. It's always the paladin, like self-sacrificing type, so it'll be interesting to see if she manages to mix it up in this one, or if it's gonna be the coroner and just the typical paladin there. The third series is The Dragons of Terra by Brian Naslund. I read 2 out of the 3 books in the series. I think it's finished. So the last one is called Fury of a Demon. It's about Bershad and Ashlyn. Bershad is a dragon hunter and Ashlyn is a sorcerer, sort of. And they're trying to start a revolution, basically, deal with their oppressive government. And there's a lot of cool concepts in this series. They talk a lot about how dragons are these like apex predators that ensure the stability of the ecology, the nature in this world. And there's also some rather disturbing magical experiments, so this will be a really fun series to get back to. And we've got The War of the Rostrum by Peter McLean. I've read 2 out of the 4 books, this is also finished. So next up I've got Priest of Gallows. This is about Thomas Piety, who led a gang before he got drafted into a war. The series starts after the war is ended, and he, with his comrades, he goes back to his town where he ran the gang, and he has to re-establish himself there. Over the course of the series, he gets pulled into the political machinations that are larger and larger, and he's just really in and over his head, so it'll be interesting to see where this one goes. This one is pretty dark, but also really fast-paced. I really enjoy it. Then we've got Thessaly by Joe Walton. I read 2 out of 3 books. I'm pretty sure this is a completed trilogy. This is about Athena, the Greek goddess. She wants to establish a city just like the Republic written by Plato. So she gathers all these philosophers from throughout history that have followed Plato's writings and really respected them, and she gathers them to establish the city, and they get a bunch of children and they teach them to follow this system of government and morals outlined in the Republic. After that, things go off the rails because Plato has some very interesting ideas about how certain things should work. And at the end of the second book, there's a really weird ending that I don't really want to spoil here, but the final book, Necessity, is set 40 years after that one. It'll be interesting to see where things go there. Another series I'd like to get to is the Singing Hills cycle by Nevo. I've read 3 out of the 4 books currently out, and so the one that I've got coming up next is Man Without the Gates. It's about a cleric who goes around collecting stories, and in this book they actually go back to their abbey and have to help it defend it. These are short novellas, and they got this Asian-inspired mythology, and it's really interesting, so I'd like to continue that. And then I've got a Tamora Pierce reread, and I'm up to the 3rd book in the Protector of the Small series, which is called Squire. The main character in this sub-series is called Kel. Kel's the first girl who's open about her gender going through knight training, and in the 3rd book she's a squire. Stated by the title, pretty self-explanatory. We've got the Realm of Eldering series by Robin Hobb. This is a really long series consisting of multiple sub-series, and I've read the first 2 sub-series. I think the books are a little bit too depressing, but the character work is so amazing that I would like to continue. The next book I've got to read is Fool's Errand, which moves back to focusing on Fitz, the main character from the first sub-series, and he gets pulled back into the politics and courtly life that he sort of gave up at the end of the 3rd book. Next up, we've got the Enchanted Forest Chronicles by Patricia Freed. This is a wild departure in tone from the previous series. This is more of a middle grade YA fantasy series about this girl, Cimarine. She's a princess, but she doesn't want to get married, so instead she goes to be a servant for a dragon. She gets herself kidnapped by the dragon voluntarily. And the 2nd book, Searching for Dragons, which is the next one I've got to read, she has to go save her dragon, and that can be fun as well. Invisible Library series by Genevieve Cogman. There is a total of 8 books, and I've read the first 3. And this is about interdimensional library, and the librarians there go to different realities to collect rare books that they bring back to the library. And in the 4th book, The Lost Plot, it's set during the 1920s New York, is where Irene, our main character, goes to get a book. And there is also a promise of some more political intrigue with the dragons, which is another faction that operates across these alternate realities. These are fun adventure books, not super deep. I've been slightly frustrated by how breakneck the pacing is, because the characters and some of these more long-reaching plot moments don't really have a time to get developed, but I'm still interested to see how the series goes. Then we've got the Sworn Soldier series by T. Kingfisher again. These are a series of horror novellas. I read the first one, but now there's a 2nd one released called What Feasts the Night. And this is about Alex Easton, who in the 1st book went to visit their friend. Turns out their house was haunted. Now Alex Easton is going back home, and her family house is also haunted. Why not? Another series of novellas is Our Lady of the Endless Worlds by Lena Rather. I've read the first one. There's a 2nd one now. This is about a series of spacefaring nuns who go out throughout the galaxy helping people in need. The 2nd book is called Sisters of the Forsaken Stars. And after the events of the 1st book, the nuns sort of have to go on the run. And there's a revolution brewing. There's probably going to be some politics and stuff like that. So I'm intrigued. Then we've got the Dirk Gently series by Douglas Adams. If you watch the TV series, it's not really like that at all. At least not the 1st book. Minor spoilers, but there's somebody's boss gets killed and he becomes a ghost. There's a time and space teleporting, sort of like TARDIS, but it's a room. It leads to a couch being stuck up a staircase in an physically impossible way. And there's just a lot of weird stuff. It's got a sort of 1980s early computers vibe as well. But somehow it works pretty well. The next book is called The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul. No idea what that means, but promises to be interesting. Apparently a check-in desk at an airport bursts into a ball of flame, and this is seen as an act of God, but Dirk Gently is intrigued. I don't know what Douglas Adams come up with there, but I would like to find out. A more recent series is The Monk and Robot by Becky Chambers. I've read the first one. And now there's another novella called A Prayer for the Crown Shy. The series about a Tima called Dex and a robot called Mosscap. They have some cozy adventures, something think about the nature of life and our purpose living it. And in this one they go and visit some villages and cities and talk to other people about that. Now I think we're starting to get to the series that I'm slightly less excited to read. We've got The Great Coats by Sebastian D. Castell. This is another series that is a little bit darker than I'd like. I read the first 2 and now there's 5 books. I think the series is finished, but there's like a spin-off series that, I don't know, maybe the first book's been released. So the next book up for me is Saint of Blood. This book is about a group of greatcoats, which is a police force established by a previous king, but when he died, the greatcoats were essentially dissolved and they're sort of purposeless, drifting through life. But then they realize that the king has an heir, a woman named Aline, that they're now trying to secure her place on the throne. And that's what's happening in the series where I'm at. Then we've got Black Iron Legacy by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan. This is a pretty unknown series, I think. Also a bit too dark for me, but I read the first book and now there's 3. The next one up is called The Shadow Saint. And I think the overall plotline across the books is that there is a war between gods, and in this particular book there's supposedly a god-killing weapon that everyone's trying to get. This book has some really creative world building, which is really cool. Then we've got the Wayward Children series by Sean McGuire. I think everyone's heard of this one if you read like Fantasy or hang out on BookTube. I read the first 2, now there's 8. I think this one is continuing. It's about children who go to a magical world through a portal, and sometimes it deals with what happens to them while they're in this alternate reality, and sometimes it deals with how they deal with life after they've come back. They eventually all go to this special home for children who've been to magical worlds. And in this 3rd book, it's about a girl who has to save her mother so that there is not a paradox where she ceases to exist because she'd never have been born. Then we've got the Beneath Earth and Sky series by Rebecca Rowanhorse. I've read the first one, there's a second one out, I think there's going to be a 3rd one as well. This one is a bit of a pre-Columbian fantasy series. Some spoilers for the first book. In the second book, the Crow God has come back and this has caused massive chaos. I was a bit disappointed with the first book. I didn't feel like there was a proper ending. There was like a point of view character introduced pretty close to the end. It just felt like completely unnecessary. I'm pretty interested to see where this is going. Then we've got The Great Cities by N.K. Jemisin. I read the first book, The City We Became, and now there's a second one, The World We Make. This is about some people in New York who represent their boroughs. They really embody the spirit of it, and they have to protect their city. And in the second book, they have to stop a fascist mayoral candidate. So I think there's gonna be some, some commentary on current politics in America. Then we've got the Numena series by Lindsay Ellis. I read the first one, Axiom's End, and now the second one is called The Truth of the Divine. This is about aliens who've come to Earth. They're discovered, so they're being leaked through the news, and the American military gets involved, but the main character is this young woman who forms a personal connection to the alien. In the second book, it deals with the question of the aliens, if they should be granted human rights or not. Then we got the Littenverse by Nino Cifri. The first book was called Fina, and the second one, which I haven't read yet, is called Defect. This is about IKEA, except IKEA exists across multiple dimensions. And in the first one, it was a bit of a romp through all these different alternate realities trying to get back home. In the second one, it's about a different character called Derek, and all of a sudden he's got these clones, and he has to go and find defective products, but yeah, the defects are not normal. Then we've got the Heart Striker series by Rachel Aaron. I read the first one, but there is 5 books in the series. And this series disappointed me a little because it's about dragons, but the dragons are shapeshifters and they're mostly just human. The main character, Julius, he's a member of this dragon family, but he doesn't feel like he fits in. He feels like he's not ruthless enough, he's not scheming and savage enough. He proves his worth regardless. And the second book, One Good Dragon Deserves Another, he has to help defend his family. And so I could see myself giving that another try. Then we've got Alex Stern by Leigh Bardugo. This is another really popular series. And the second book is called Hellbent. It's about Alex Stern. She can see ghosts. And not only that, she gets into Yale because of this, and she has to be a part of this society that monitors other secret societies at Yale. Because they're all magical. Somebody's got to keep them in line, keep them from getting too unethical. In the first book, minor spoilers, her mentor, Darlington, he disappears. And now in the second book, she has to go save him from hell, basically. Finally, we've got The Radiant Emperor by Shelley Parker Chan. I've read the first one, and now there's a second one called He Who Drowned the World. Historical fantasy series set in China. It's about this girl born into poverty, not valued because she is a girl, but her brother receives this prophecy that he is going to grow up to become someone really important. Then, when her whole family, including her brother, dies, she decides she's going to take on her brother's destiny. Her first step is becoming a monk. She has to beg to get admitted as a monk because she's so insignificant. She gets in, and then it just goes from there. At the end of the first book, she's quite important, quite powerful. The second book in the series is more focusing on how she tries to get the Chinese throne and maintain her power. And I think this one was just a little bit too slow-paced for me. I wasn't really that interested in the characters, but I could give it another chance. So, yep, this was the 24 series I'd like to continue in 2024. There are actually a couple more series that I've started, but I think at this point we can say that they're ENFs. So let me know if you guys are reading any of these series, or if you have some other ones that you have to continue this year. And hope you guys have a good day.